And in the upper right here, in the red, he is the best Terran in Europe by far. Give it up for Team Liquid's Clem.
His opponent, a fellow Frenchman. He is in the blue, the bottom left side, the Zerg. Teamless Stephano. Okay. Now, as I was saying with Raynor, right? I always anticipate someone like him to be a little bit aggressive when he's up against players he would assume he's better than. I think Clem, I kind of see him as a player that is just going to try to play his best no matter what, right? He's just going to play his regular game here.
Yeah. You know, on the flip side, though, it's funny. So Stephano goes. He's preparing for this event. Maybe not playing all that much, but still preparing, doing his research. And you know, the level of research was to the point where he didn't necessarily realize that Spirit was Soul. And that being said, so he's like, "Oh, who's this new player? See whether this pauses anything significant or not." He's like, who's this new player? Okay, you know, I can't find much about him. That's fine. And then he takes a game off of him, and Soul is Cyril's practice partner. Soul is a absolutely fantastic Terran player, very good TVZ player, and he still takes a map off him. So, you know, as you say, Stephano here, he's good, he's got a shot, but you know, he has shown some tremendous ability in ZVT when he didn't have the proper prep. So maybe with studying Clem replays a little more, he's got a shot to make something happen.
That would be cool. That would be cool. I mean, it's kind of funny. I ran into the same problem with Spirit. It's called now, right?
Yes, his name is now Spirit.
Yeah. I ran into the same problem when we were casting one of his first games, and it's like, who is this Spirit guy? I haven't seen his name before. Then you look up on Wikipedia, and it's like, oh, wait a moment. I know that face. That's someone familiar. And then, oh, right, Soul. To be fair, I don't know how you think about this, but I think Soul, one of the players that potentially could be a good thing to have a name changed for him. Just from a mental kind of aspect, because he's a player that gets nervous a lot. So maybe if he changes his name, maybe that will trigger some wires in his brain, make him a bit more relaxed. I don't know. Yeah. You know, get the feeling of a new start of something. I mean, a rebrand is always
valid. Certainly, I mean, still, he's one of those players we've always talked about just how good his potential is and how good he looks on ladder, and they just never really shows it. So who knows, maybe he's going to be able to play with some new fighting spirit, as this Reaper from Clem just being annoying as all get out. To get any Gatling, that's about that. It's actually interesting. I don't know if you've you had a chance to watch a bunch of this, but Cyril playing against Clem at this point has moved back to 6-lings as an opener instead of 4, which, I mean, that's a less drone. That's not great. And it's just really to deal with how aggressive this Reaper is. So if Cyril says, I need 6-lings to deal with the aggression of Clem, kind of surprised to see Stephano only at 4.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing all right so far. Admittedly, he lost a ling, but that's all that happens. And it's not great, but I don't think it's going to really influence him winning or losing this game. It's probably other stuff that Clem's going to do that will influence that, but
yeah,
it's always going to start.
So it looks like Clem going for a 2-on-1 here, something like that. We have a second barracks coming on down with a third base. So kind of the TY style, right, where you do get Hellions, but it's still a 2-on-1, and you still get a third base. And it's a 2-on-1 that hits at 530 instead of 430 with some Hellions, maybe Hellbat pressure, but more likely than not, you don't get the armory. And it's a lot of pressure. It's very hard to do for the Zerg to deal with, especially because it's a weird timing, right? Every Zerg knows that, oh yeah, I can go and, you know, drone up, and then get up to my 32 lings by right around 4:45, 5 minutes, and I'm fine. But this other timing that has Hellions, and by the way, the lack of Hellions is a big scouting factor if you're looking at whether it's a 2-on-1 or not. Well, it's a lot harder for the Zerg to scout. B, it hits at a weird timing, so maybe they're not, you know, spamming that Zergling key, spamming it because they don't think it's coming. And then it can get good value regardless. And even if it doesn't, well, you still got a third base behind it. Your medevacs are going to be a little bit slower. Your upgrades are going to be a little bit slower, but that's kind of about it.
Stephano did get a good look at that third base, so kind of in the know as to what's happening on Clem's side of the field. Clem hasn't gotten a single creep to me yet. Now, it's not because Stephano... Well, I guess he is still spreading it a little bit, but he's just being super careful. He's got the overlords here, but still, even when he sees the rotation, it seems a bit hesitant here and there to spread, but...
Yeah, I mean, Clem is...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, at least he keeps that energy alive, right? It's very useful to just not lose those creep tumors, because then you'll just have more creep tumors, more transfuse energy, all that good stuff.
You know what's actually really interesting, though, is there we go. The pickup started, so Medivacs steaming across the map here, getting ready for that. Nice, again, 5:30 timing. But Stephano, he's decided he's going to be a Roachy boy. We have 1-1 range coming on up here. But here's the big question. How much do we actually have on the map? It's 13 Zerglings. I mean, 9 Queens are a lot. Don't get me wrong, Kozan. That is a lot here. But it's 1-1 halfway done before the Roach War even gets started. And now we got the double Medivac. We have these 16 odd Marines. They're going to try to find their way on into some sort of value. And it's all going to be on the Queens at this point. There are not enough links to really buffer this whatsoever. But there are enough Queens. And I'm sorry, it's not even 16. It's 12 Marines on that bit of aggression. So Clem, he's not going to find that much. He gets some creep tumors, but that's about it. And he will be rebuffed. And if there's a ZVT style I see Clem lose to more than anything else, is absolutely this Roche play.
It's interesting. That must be in Stephano's head then as well, right? If he's going for this.
Yeah, like
although he is known as the Roach Boy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 200 Roach Max or 200 supply Roach Max. Certainly a thing that he was famous for. Oh, here we go. Clem's gonna find a lot of room here on in the main base, but there are spores, so no value there. But yeah, I mean, on 2,000 atmospheres, right? That is a map that has somewhat wide open of a third base. The rush distance is not too long, so you'll be able to make something happen with that. And especially, you can get this really nice creep spread on the right-hand side that will allow you to develop that pushing path. And there we go. Roaches are now on the field. +1 underway. Oh, okay. So no, wait, never mind. I love this. Stephano's playing this really cool style that really Dark first started to play, where you go, you say, oh, it's super old. It's Roach Hydra, but no, it's Roach. It's just a traditional tech to get into really quick, highly upgraded lurkers. So we're gonna have to see whether Clem allows him to do that. But you know, +0 lurkers in Lingbane Hydra are scary. But you get a +2 lurkers, that is, they do a lot of damage. Let's put it that way.
They certainly do. All right, some trouble now for Stephano. He's trying to get a run-by going with those links, but a tough brick wall is what he's running into there. The siege tanks definitely getting some value as they are still being picked up and just taken away. Links finally achieving something here. 6, 7. Can he get more? 8 SCVs.
I think the friendly fire actually killed that SCV as the tank sieged up. So I'm just sacrificing an SCV to the cause. Saying, I don't need this. This is fine.
Exactly. He would have gotten it anyway. It's fine. Siege tank fire. I mean, it's always better to get shot down by a siege tank, I'd say, than a corrosive bile. It just seems less painful to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. But there we go. We have the infestation pit coming down now. Kozan. So he's going to be able to get Hive rather soon. Hydra's hitting the field. And before 2-2, you know, before the Terran hits about 150, 160 supply, you know, Roach Hydra is still a valid composition. It doesn't deal with drops all that well, but if you just kind of put 20 roaches in each spot, you're probably fine. And eventually we will see those lurkers come on down. We will see that heavy DPS. But I mean, Clem's doing that Clem thing. He's not one army, Kozan. It's not even 2 armies for the most part. It really is 3 armies here. 1 at home, 1 on the right side, and the big one on the left-hand side, trying to find some value. Really just looking to stress Stephano's APM to levels that he's just not comfortable with. So now we have the tank sieging up here on the left-hand side. And at the very least, we will see a gas go down.
All right, yeah, Stephano should be able to pick off these tanks this time around. He's doing pretty well so far. He's getting some value out of these Medivacs as well. He just managed to get them picked up again as well. So, I mean, pretty good. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far from Stephano. He's even got a fair bit of creep. Starting to reach the middle of the map, but it's difficult for Clem to push in here and actually be a real threat to the economy straight away. So that's all you need as a Zerg. And Stephano's getting closer and closer to that very scary technology.
You know, the really interesting thing about this game, and really the game we saw prior with Strange, is that we have these heavy underdogs against these, all-time great European players. And in these both series, both players saying, yeah, I want to kind of rush to the late game. I don't want to play the mid game all that much. And you would think, the late game is kind of the most mechanically intensive part of the game for the most part here. Now we do have Stephano trying to take a fight off of Creep. He's going to knock one tank down. We have 2, 3 more where that comes from. So Bile's going to drop these tanks down. But this is maybe not the best trade here for Stephano. That being said, he will be able to force his opponent back. And you know what? Actually, take a superior trade in that endeavor. So it looked like the army was melting, but just not melting quite enough. Stephano will be forced back. But as I was saying, Stephano here, he's getting into a rather quick hive. He's getting into that lurker den. He's trying to move into the late game ASAP. But if I'm looking at Clem, if I'm looking at Raynor, it's not like they get less scary in the late game. Not at all. I mean, they're known for that mid game pressure, but they are still tremendously scary as the game goes late for their multitasking with their control. And Stephano is not taking a good fight here on the left-hand side, even as he does knock down this tank rally. But is it worth getting the tanks if you're going to lose your base?
I might still be okay with the other units coming in here as well. And look at that. He saves the base. This is really good for Mr. Stephano so far. Just needs to be careful of the reinforcements coming in. There's still a scary amount of Terran. Especially because those medevacts are there ready to kind of regroup up with this. Still no lurkers on the field. Taking his time with this a little bit. Clem's pressure definitely stopping Stephano from making that switch up as quickly as he kind of was looking like he wanted to make.
Yeah, this is an almost pure Hydra army too at this point. Hydras are great. They do a lot of DPS, although if you're a laser, you argue that Hydras are the worst unit in the game. But they're paper. If you don't have someone to buffer for them, they're not going to fight all that well. But Stephano, he had a great concave, and the Queen's here supporting. He is able to make this fight happen, and now he feels like he's pushed Clem back enough here on 89 workers that he can get his 3-3. He's starting to get lurker upgrades, and once he gets seismic spines, that's when we're going to start to see some lurkers hit the fields. There we go. Lurkers starting to morph on in. But we were talking about this earlier. I mean, Clem is in a great spot. He's got 4 bases. He has his Ghost. He's got his Ghost Academy down. I believe he's on Double Factory. Yeah, Double Factory. So he's got a lot of tanks coming out every build cycle. He's got Ghost coming out rather soon. He's probably one of the best Terran players in the world with his Ghost control, with those snipes that he's able to make happen. And Stephano's going to lose a good portion of this army here. No burrow speed, so we're going to see a bunch of lurkers go down. Some not even before they're born. And that's not what you want here if you're Stephano. The whole goal, yeah, you could trade away Lings. You can maybe trade away Hydras, but you do not want to trade away lurkers. Those are some that you just kind of want to have exist and find value for you over the course of this game. And Clem is not playing in a way that is allowing for that to happen, as another lurker will get target fired on down.
Yeah, it was a little bit interesting there as well, as we... Maybe all those Hydras, right? I was thinking about that as well for a little bit, and the Clem was going into a very marauder-heavy army, which is maybe why we saw those Hydras do a little bit better than you would initially expect them to do. Don't take as much from those marauders, but maybe Clem already trying to prepare for the lurkers, of course, in that department. Maybe perhaps Stephano sticking on the Hydra a bit heavier because of that as well.
I mean, you got to remember, though, Hydras or lurkers do bonus damage to Marauders that they don't do to Marines. And again, because armored units. And granted, Marines are pretty terrible against lurkers, so not that big of a deal. But it is something that we do have to pay attention to. Is now Stephano looking for a big surround here. Does he have it synced up properly? Coming on in from every side, the left, the right, and the center. Looking to break Clem out of his position on the map here. Looks like he will be able to do so. Ghosts are dying. Tanks are dying. So much of the tech of this army of Clem is dying here. The Ghosts looking for their snipes, but they will be wholly unsuccessful. The army of Clem is falling on down, as we do have more tanks sieging on up here, but they're not going to have that much time. The lurkers, they're sieged up. The tanks are dying. Stephano, is he breaking Clem here?
It's looking more and more like it. Those lurkers, they are jumping a bit forwards as Stephano is starting to claim a bit of a valuable spot here. There's still a base to the top left side. Well, he sees a missile turret is there, but he's got bigger fish to fry right now. This planetary fortress will be his prisoner of war for a little bit of time. Lurkers getting a bit further forwards. More reinforcements for Stephano. Want to really suppress these units from pushing him back again. Are we seeing an upset happen again?
I think we are. I mean, look at the supply here. It's 190 supply to 140. Stephano, he's in the natural of Clem. He's segmented off the upper 2 left bases. That planetary is eventually going to go down because lurkers do a great job against that here. Clem cannot get his reinforcements out, not really. And Stephano, his rally is just wreaking havoc. All these ghosts being made from the third base, they're just dying. We're starting to see the planetary start to burn as well. And it's GG.
Wow.
Stephano. He takes game 1.
Wow. All right.
Okay. You said undefeated players are not going to be undefeated anymore. And I mean, Stephano's got to get one more game, but dear Lord, Kozan. What a
That was
fight.
impressive. That was very impressive. I'm wondering what's going to happen game number 2 now. This wasn't a cannon rush. This wasn't like a massive quick rush timing attack. Nothing of the sorts. It was just Clem not finding the kind of momentum that we are used to see him find in these types of series for an enormous spectrum of that game. We had the units lost very, very equal, and normally Clem eking out ahead further and further, but
Yeah, that was
Stephano.
That was
Man.
crazy. It's kind of cool.
It
though.
was.
And
It was.
it's really cool also seeing kind of Stephano really taking a page from Dark's book there. It's a style that there's a reason we don't see it all that often because it can be abused, but if you throw it out here or there, +3 lurkers are just terrifying. And generally by the time +3 lurkers are out, you know, you have ghosts, you have tanks, you have 3/3, you have +3 mech attack, you have maybe some mech armor. You're able to deal with that a lot better. That was a very fast +3 lurker timing, and Clem was just not prepared. Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it's taking him in around the courts. Going with 4 links as well, Stephano, you know. Might be reclaiming that seat as the best foreigner in the world. Who knows pretty soon. That would be something. That would be really something if Stephano ever manages to do that again. But man, that game definitely has got some gas left in the tank, that's for sure.
Well, we definitely have a big map here for game number 2. So we're going to have to see whether Stephano can do it again. Kozan, before we get into Romanticide, is it 2-0? Do we have the ultimate upset, or does Clem take us to game 3?
I think so. I think that we'll just have to now, right? It's must happen. We'll see.
Okay, so Kozan saying it's going to be 2-0 now for Stephano, and the greatest upset we will have seen in probably months. We're going to have to see whether that one works out here as we have game 2. Excuse me. It's ready. In the bottom left, you're looking at the main base of the Blue Zerg player, up 1-0 on the player with the greatest TVZ in the world. He is the Frenchman, the former king, Stephano.
The top left side, a red Terran. Fighting for Team Liquid. Apparently, the only weakness is another Frenchman. He is Clem. Who better to take out Clem than a fellow countryman?
It's a little bit.
I mean, we're not there yet. We're not there yet, but.
I mean, Kozan,
Although I did make the predictions, so I guess that we are there yet.
Exactly. That's a little bit worrying though, right? Because Clem, he's got one match to play after this, and it will be against Marine Lord to decide top in the group, assuming Clem actually comes out with this series, but I think he's still absolutely favored to 2-1 this series. And then it's going to be Marine Lord, assuming he stays undefeated as he is right now. Well, if French is his Achilles heel, and we did see Marine Lord break mentally and spiritually break Clem in that series in DreamHack Summer, then I don't know. I'm a little bit worried if he loses these last 2 series.
Yeah, same. It's not really what you anticipate. You see Clem and you're like, all right, well, here we go. He's just going to do his thing. We've seen this before. We've stopped doubting him. And sometimes just a speck of doubts and then he's still being found.
And also, one thing you gotta look at, so we talked about this a little bit in the start of that last game, and we're talking about soul or spirit and Stephano's preparation. Stephano has always been a player who is an extremely cerebral player. I mean, at one point he was going to med school. Now I think he's getting a degree in like applied mathematics. I forget he's gone through a bunch of different degrees. But anyways, an extremely smart person, an extremely smart player. So you give him time and you give him the ability to actually research his opponent. And Clem has a lot of film available between EPT Cups and DreamHack Masters. There's a lot of footage of him playing against Zerg players that it makes absolute sense here that Stephano is just going to have a really good study and have a really good game plan going on into this series. I mean, just really leveraging the how many years of professional play that Stephano has been active?
I don't know. It must be up there right now. Like, well, he's gone away as well for a pretty couple of years, I believe. So, I don't know. He's been around the block, that's for sure. That is for sure. Seeing Clem going here with his second barracks next to his factory, a quick third command center as well. Only going for the the 2 Hellions with the 1 Reaper as well.
Yep, it's the same build that he went for last game, and interesting here. We see Clem, he's doing the same thing. He says, this is the way I want to play this series. This is how I think I'm best, even if it did not work out for him at all in that previous game. He was never able to find advantages. The first couple drops didn't find any value whatsoever because Stephano went up to like 9 or 10 queens, and then, well, I mean, we all saw how that game ended. Clem and Stephano were even on resources lost in a TVZ. I don't know. It feels like with a 2-on-1, you have to find damage. Even if you're going the greedy version, you still got to find something. And well, this is an even more turtled up map than 2000 Atmospheres is. It's going to be even easier for Stephano to make sure he doesn't take any damage.
Yeah, I mean, as determined, right? You have the medevacs who want to try to utilize as much as possible to just heal up over and over again, come in, hit and run, right? Just take the damage wherever you can and just get out of there. And, well, if you can't find those moments and you're just having regular battles where you're kind of trading out equally, right? It's unfortunately to a deficit of the player with the more mobile army that is supposed to kind of dash in and dash out all the time.
Yeah, now, I'm kind of sad because it is going to be 1-1 melee in this game for Stephano. He's going for a much more standard composition. And I don't know, I really like that kind of Roach Hydra into really quick lurker style. I think it's really powerful. But there's a reason we don't see it a lot. Kind of sad we don't see it again. But now we do have Clem. Once again, moving out here with his, it looks like 13 Marines this time. But Stephano's aware of this. He's got to have looked at the replay from the last game. He's like, okay, this was a 2-on-1. This looks like the same thing. I'm going to have a bunch of Lings out this time. I'm going to be ready to defend. And there we go. The Lings are just going to get underneath these medevacs immediately. No value here for Clem. He's not even going to be allowed to unload for quite a while. And, well, Stephano's just ahead now. All right, he's been able to drone up. He's got his 3 bases, 4th base on the way. Once he deals with this initial push, he will go and be able to really hit that drone button. His upgrades are better. I mean, his Baneling Nest is a little bit slower, but against this 2-on-1, you really don't need a Baneling Nest anyways. And he's got all the tempo on the map right now. His creep spread has not been mitigated whatsoever. And Clem's going to have to find some value. That being said, we have that interesting thing that we saw Mario do against Cyril. It is that really quick third medevac with a Widowmine coming on in off the 2-on-1. And this is not something a lot of Zergs expect. There is no Baneling Nest here. And Stephano is droning up. So this can be a problem, as now we're at like, what, 24 Marines finding their way on in. And it's only 5 Queens. Clem, he's looking for that value. Of course, Widowmine Bird on in behind, just looking to bait a massive shot. Stephano, though, not all that interested in committing until his 1-1 is done in 10 seconds. You just bring all the queens to the front saying, look, I don't want to fight here. I'll trade energy for HP, sure. But I'm waiting for my 1-1. I'm waiting for my Banelings to make sure that I can really take this fight that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I love that. I'm not sure if he's doing it on purpose either, but he's placing those medevacts in a way so that you can't see the little thing in the ground, right? The little darkened spot where the Widowmine is. It's really difficult for Stephano to pick up on it, but it seems like it went okay. No retargeting from that Widowmine, so Stephano's split off Zergling, that kind of tanked it, doing a good job with it. Still a bit of struggle, though. I mean, it's not that much creep between Clem's army and this 4th base over here.
Yeah, but this is the thing that Clem has got to be worried about. Yeah, he's got double factory coming down, all that, but that is a massive Ling run by that's going to find its way on in. It's going to get a cancel on the 4th base here. Clem, he's only focusing on what's at home. He's not really focusing on about another tank. Oh, no, the tank will stay alive at the last second on like 5 HP, but 14 workers have gone down, and I think Stephano has what he needs to deal with at home. Clem now pushing on in, but Baneling speed, it's done in just about 20 seconds. There's only one tank here to make this happen. And Stephano, he's got a lot of queens.
What is happening here? Stephano just needs to kind of hold this off, and he'll be in a pretty good spot here after killing 14 SCVs.
Wait.
And the 4th base.
Kozan, Clem is even more all in than that. He has not started his 2-2.
Oh my God.
Stephano's going to have a 2 upgrade lead for like the next 3-4 minutes at this point. That is...
Oh my God.
Assuming we get there, that's going to be massive. There's more and more Zerglings find their way on in. This tank has been repaired just a little bit, but Zergling's going to get on top of that one. The tank should go down now. The tank is not firing in range here. These Marines are all so much in the orange. There we go. The defensive tank goes down now. And now we have Baneling speed. We have a lot more lings. Stephano's not even interested in fighting it. The Banelings are just doing a great job of keeping it back. And now here's the surround.
Okay. For a moment, I thought that was crazy, but it worked out. He was gunning for the surround on the Marines, forcing the lift up very nicely, and then it was a free siege tank from that moment onwards. And a freed up middle of the map. Clem will transition into the multi-pronged harassment, but Stephano, I mean, again, that was some crazy play from him. I mean, if he wins with Ling Bang now as well, that's more than an upset than I would have expected.
I mean, Stephano was always known for his Ling control back in the day. I mean, he wasn't the best player with Lings in the world, but certainly in Europe, Stephano Lings were absolutely a thing. Here's this drop on the right-hand side is going to get cleaned on up. Of course, we should note that 2 medevacs were killed earlier just by a bunch of queens. Stephano should have everything that he needs to defend this push on the left side as well. There are no tanks here. Nothing like that. In fact, Clem, he's building Widow Mines against Hydras. That's not what you want. Clem, of course, also, he's down to upgrades. Stephano, he's got his 5th base underway, but Clem is starting to snowball his supply just a little bit as he does now finally take that 4th base. Stephano, though, he's on 5. He's in a great spot as this run by. It's not going to get a lot. Okay. It's only going to be that one big slobber knocking push. And Stephano is starting to fall behind in resources lost just a little bit, but at this stage in the game, 1,000, 1,300 resources when you've been mining more over the majority of this game, that Stephano's very happy with the situation that he's in right now. He does need to get an infestation bed, though.
He's only on 68 workers here as well, which is worrying me a little bit. If he managed to bump that up with a couple more a bit earlier, that would raise most of my worries here. But let's see. If you do just keep on trading against Clem like this without, making sure you have a better economy, I think you're bound to lose. But we'll have to wait and see. Another medevac right there. Just Widow Mines, it looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that one is going to be zoned out. Yeah, there we go. Taken out here. Looks like a queen had the range for that. So no multi-prong. Stephano is doing better than I've seen a lot of players handle this multi-prong harass from Clem. I mean, how many times have we seen Clem's just, his Widow Mine drops or his double medevac drops just absolutely kill a Zerg? And Stephano says, no, I'm okay here. I'm fine. I'm not taking any damage. In fact, I'm doing damage to you. So we have a big run by gearing it up. But there we go. Widow Mine is going to clean up a lot of it.
Oh, Stephano. I thought he saw that go into the ground and then it's just... Oh well, that happens. Doing all right here with the Hydras for the moment. More reinforcements coming in, but of course his own base in a bit of trouble as well. There's the army right now. Both players taking some slight cuts, some slight scraping wounds, but that's about it. Neither of them really cracking.
Now, here's actually a problem here. Stephano, never mind. I was going to say, it looks like a lot of Stephano's army is finding its way onto the left-hand side, and a good portion of Clem's army is up in the air. And yeah, there we go. Actually, that's what's happening anyways. But Clem was able to drop his army in time. Zergling's getting this round here. Baneling's looking to make their connections. Stephano says, enough with this. Time for me to make the push happen. Baneling's are going to get some great connections to start. It's a massive concave here for Stephano. But with the Liberators here, with everything sieging on up, I think that Clem just barely has enough. But no, the Liberator siege up is not going to be enough here. The army of Clem falling down as he has to retreat to his planetary. But it's not going to be enough to break Clem, just to break his army.
Is troublesome indeed. I mean, Stephano probably was banking on trying to get something to break there. But instead, Clem, he is going to be able to now be in a position to start pushing out with most of these, actually better economy than he had before Stephano started pushing.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Stephano here. That very much felt like it was his max out all-in push off of 2-2.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a hive coming on up here. There we go. Yeah, GG. Clem, he was not broken in that game. Stephano stays alive. Or Stephano dies. Clem stays alive. And we're going to game 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Clem stays alive there. That is pretty cool. Game number 3. Maybe we'll still see those roaches another time that you were hoping to see. That will be cool. That will be cool. I agree. I would love to see those roaches again. Blackburn. You think we could see them there?
You know what? Blackburn is a rather short ground distance map. It's pretty wide open between the natural and the third. That seems like a pretty good recipe for those roaches to me. I mean, we all remember what Rogue did to Maru in GSL on that map, so I would not be surprised. But regardless of what happens at this point, I was going into the series thinking it was going to be an extremely quick 2-0 from Clem, just with the form that he has shown, and Stephano kind of being vocal about not practicing all that much. But in fairness, Stephano's always vocal about not practicing all that much, even when he was the world beater. And you know what? I don't care what happens in this game. I want Stephano to win to keep himself alive in the group, because I want the drama for the final day. But regardless, I mean, we've had 2 insane TVZ games here in the second series of the day, Kozin. There's nothing more I can ask for.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly do believe if Stephano maybe managed to just get a couple of extra drones, right, maybe that would have just turned out to be a victory there for him. But Clem, too solid with his own macro. He lost his workers, but he had them rebuild pretty much instantaneously, and then he was just ahead with 10 workers over his Zerg opponents. So yeah, and then it doesn't matter if you're not as successful with the trading wise of armies as he normally is, right? As we're used to see from Clem, because he's just gonna have more.
Exactly. Well, we're gonna have to see whether that more is gonna be enough. It's actually kind of funny you talk about what he's got, where Clem was on 90 workers in that game, which maybe is a little bit too much, honestly. I don't know. But we're gonna have to find out. Does he go to 90 workers? Does he take game number 3? Does Stephano complete the upset? Well, we're gonna have to find out. Game 3, you mentioned it. It's on Blackburn, and we're ready to go. In the bottom right, you're looking at the main base of the Frenchman. Best TVC in the world, some people say. Certainly the reigning champion here in DreamHack Masters Europe. He is, from Team Liquid, Clem.
His opponent working on an upset. Will he be able to achieve it? There's just one more game he's got to win, but it's one of the roughest one yet for him, probably. He's the Blue Zerg, teamless Stephano. We're just both hoping to see those roaches again, and then we'll take it from there. It's when we start getting giddy.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is a great map. You mentioned this. You asked whether this is going to happen, but this is a great map for roaches. I mean, the 2-1-1 Roach Max has bopped Clem, has bopped Maru on this map multiple times now when we see Rogue doing it at the very least. So if I'm Stephano, I'm taking a page out of that textbook. It's not the great big book of Protoss shenanigans, but yeah, Zerg. So if the Protoss, has the great big book of Protoss shenanigans, it's 500-600 pages. Zerg has a little leaflet. That is the tiny little leaflet of Zerg shenanigans, but 1-1 roaches are one of those. And there's absolutely a little subheading about how to do it on Blackburn.
It's lovely. It's lovely to hear. Stephano on good company then with this map. Gonna be visited by a little Reaper from Clem that he's opened up with. I am kind of expecting Clem to do the exact same thing again, Yeah,
it's one of those interesting things where, I mean, we saw Maru, when he 3-0'd Cyril, he went for a similar 2-1-1. He didn't go for the TY 2-1-1. He just went for your stock standard 2-1-1, except a little bit more aggression with that third medevac. But in this one, we see, again, Stephano doing something similar, but it's the TY one. It's the little bit greedier version. And it's very interesting to see that these top-level players are going for this, because in that Mario series, in the game that Clem has won in this series, it doesn't feel like the 2-1-1 is what is winning. It more feels like, well, eventually the Terran wins out anyways, despite going for the 2-1-1, and despite making that... I mean, okay, game 3 of Maru versus Cyril, the 2-1-1 did great work and it kind of won the game. But in general, it doesn't feel like the pressure is exactly paying out, because the Zerg is still able to get their upgrade lead, still able to get their economy. But as I say that, though, I mean, last game you pointed this out, Stephano was on 68 workers until about 8 minutes in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting a bit of both worlds for Clem, and sometimes, you know, that's a bad thing to do in StarCraft 2. Sometimes, well, if you really know what you're doing, you can make that work. And Clem, with that pressure from the 2 racks initially, getting a couple of extra Marines, making Stephano feel less secure, and, you know, continuously resupplying that front makes Stephano feel like, all right, I'll have to continuously resupply my front as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to make a decision. You know, the Zerg production, the way it is, you either build workers or you build army. You can't build both. Well, I guess Queens allow you to build both, but that's about it. There we go. This run by should not get too much here, as the Zerglings are in a good position. Queen's chasing behind, and the damage is there, but they will find their way on into the main base. The Reaper will get target fire down. Their Hellion, as well, is going to take 2 volleys of anything for this Hellion to find any value. So 2-3 workers are going to be the exchange. It's something. It's non-zero, but yeah, it's not going to be all that impactful either way.
Yeah, it's probably not really what he was looking for, but to be fair, he wasn't getting that many creep tumors with that little patch of units anyway, so maybe this time around he was like, you know what, if I'm not getting creep tumors against this guy, maybe I should just try to get drones, see what I can get, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? We were cheering for it. We were hoping for it. We were praying for it. Kozan, what's on Stephano's production tab right now?
There it is. That's our good old pal, the Roach Warren.
Now, here's the question, though. Is this 1-1 Roach? 1-1 speed Roach like what we saw, you know, Rogue do? I mean, he's going to get 1-1. That much is certain. Or are we going to see the style that we saw Stephano do in game number 1? That style that he kind of has gleaned from Dark, where, yeah, you got 1-1 Roaches. You got Roach Hydra very quickly. But it's only to get on in to the late game. Get into that highly upgraded lurker tech and just hit with that big, that 10-minute. It's weird to talk about a 10-minute timing, isn't it?
It is. It's just that, you know, it's nice that a game of StarCraft allows you to do it, though.
Hey, you know what? At least there are other RTSs where a rush plays, it happens in 30 minutes. So, you know, I'm glad that 10 minutes seems like it's a little bit late for a timing, you know?
Yeah, true. But yeah, I think he's just gonna stick with the you know, with the lurkers again. I assume that's where he's gonna take this. Not seeing that many overlords on the production tab or anything like that, so he's kind of keeping it lower on the vibes. But I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see it right now. It's just defensive roaches for Stephano, just making sure he does not die, doesn't take any damage here to this 2-on-1. And roaches, by the way, are a great response to that 2-1-1 setup. You just go, and you're not even going to lose all that much. You might lose a roach or two, but, you know, as you say that, we got a lot of overlords coming out here.
Yep.
A lot of roaches. And, well, 1-1's going to be timing up really nicely with speed roach as well. And this is one of the really big downsides of going 2-on-1 against 1-1 roach timing is you have, like, no tanks. You have a very little defensive ability there on the other side of the map. You rely on being defensive by being offensive. That's how you make that happen. So Stephano here, he's just spamming that roach button. Ravager's underway behind this. Clem trying to be active on the map with these Marines, and he is. But we have the army on the march here. Look at that blue blob in the center of the map. Stephano getting ready to find some damage of his own. +1 armor is done. +1 attack in 10 seconds. This bunker will not complete. There's 1 tank on the high ground, 2 tanks on the high ground. But is that going to be enough here to keep this third base alive, to keep it mining? I am not convinced. And there's vision. 1 tank will get biled down. Well, there we go. We'll get biled down.
Eventually it will. That's the reinforcements from Clem as well. Coming in from behind the 2 metapacks from before. Good amount of SCVs are being destroyed right now, and does put Stephano in a pretty good spot, but he wants to finish the game here. It seems 12 more Roaches on the production, 3 more Ravagers. Yeah, no 2-2 on the way here. This is all or nothing for the Frenchman here in this game number 3. 2 tanks are what is keeping Clem alive in this game. 1 will go down. The biles are there, but Stephano's army has been thinned out just a little bit. 1-1 is done for Clem, so we have that upgrade parity, but here is the second wave. Stephano with 6 queens, transfusing all the roaches, all the ravagers, doing what he can to supply block Clem, but Clem's supply is low enough that those supply depots will not supply block him. That being said, Clem's army is so small here. It really is. But those queens, they're going to be incredibly slow. That siege tank's going to make things very difficult for Stephano. Doesn't have vision on the high ground anymore. Needs to get himself up there. Losing some HP to his own biles as well. And now, again, struggling against that siege tank. Very awkward to engage this.
Yeah, but the third base has been broken once again, Coast, and the tank is forced to lift. Tank is forced to run away. Third base has been lifted here. Stephano realizing that he has done enough damage potentially. He's got his upgrades underway. Clem, he's trying to move out, trying to make something happen, but there are too many roaches here. Clem, you're not allowed down the ramp. You're not even maybe allowed up the ramp. The two tanks, again, all that remain is the wall. It's getting broken on down. Clem trying to find his way to stay in this game. Stephano eating too many tank shots on the ramp, will be forced to back it up once again. Now he's starting to lose those queens. It's only a 20 army supply lead. But Stephano, he does have 2-2 underway. He does have his fourth base underway. He does have some sort of a progression in this game beyond that. But it's still a game where Clem is still very much in danger here. He does not have much of an economy whatsoever, even as Stephano's only on 58 workers.
Yeah, it's just a game of trying to delay Clem right now. Waste his time as much as possible. Just keep him in this awfully stranglehold position. And okay, the third base does come in. Stephano not eager to lose all his roaches and ravagers here as the supply of army for Clem here moving up the belt a little bit. That's 5 siege tanks now after all.
Yeah, that's a really, man. See, this fight, this game really comes down to the fact that Stephano used his vials on the army before he got a single roach on the high ground. That gave him vision on the tank, which meant that even if he was in range, he could not vial the tanks down because the vials were on cooldown. That allowed Clem to make that defense happen. That small little move. And now Clem, he's starting to equalize army supply just a little bit. Stephano, he's being forced to back up here. He's done good damage. He's killed a grand total of 25 SCVs. He's really traded very well here, even as he's lost a lot of gas. But his 2-2 is not going to be done, so Clem will have a upgrade lead for the time being here. Going to find his way behind the gold mineral line, so Stephano's economy is going to get broken just a little bit more. And, well, we don't have any Hydras on the field just yet, I don't believe, even as that Hydra Den is done. Clem, now it's his turn to get active on the map here. Force Stephano to react instead. And, again, no mining on the gold. That's a problem.
Yep, that's kind of what Stephano is banking on to, have that advantage here. This gold base is a fourth base. It's the advantage he claimed with his previous attack. And now Clem putting a stop to it quite quickly. Only 4 workers have gone down so far, but it looks like that number is going to be going up quite quickly.
Now, we do have a bunch of Hydras on the field now. +2 attack is almost done here, and +2 armor is very far away for Clem at this point. So kind of when we move on into that higher DPS Roach Hydra composition with how many Marauders are here, you talked about this in game number 1. It was a great move, but here are the tanks. The mechanized infantry is coming on in. You can't fight that one, Stephano. You gotta run away.
Oh, that's a lot of damage. Oh my, that is worse than Baneling landmines. Just like 20 siege tanks waiting for you. All shooting at once.
Oh no.
Man,
so
the dream is ending, I feel like.
That's so many tanks. Another fourth base for Stephano is dead. He doesn't have an auxiliary fourth here. He thought he could chase. He thought he could take a fight, but there are as many tanks. There are more tanks than Marauders, almost as many tanks than Marines in this game. And if you're Roach Hydra, you cannot fight that. Not without Vipers, certainly not.
There's 3 times the amount of tanks as Marauders. Oh dear. It's ridiculous. Some of them are being destroyed, but Stephano losing the 4th and potential 5th now. That is incredibly rough. Anything he had going for him in this game still is kind of being shoved out of the window now by Clem. The siege tanks could be in trouble though with a good couple of biles. Is Stephano still going to be able to clean this up? It doesn't look like he's landing the shots that he needs to. Clem! Maybe, you know what, not all that exciting seeing him win again, but